Hello everyone, this is Yana Smakula for Pinkfresh Studio. I'm excited to be joining you today with a video featuring the fabulous Coastal Paradise suite of products. I have several cards for you today, all inspired by a dream, I guess, to go on vacation. So if you haven't gone on vacation this summer yet, I invite you to come join me and come on a virtual stamping and ink blending vacation with these products. So let's go ahead and get started. Here is a quick look at the color combination I will be using today. I have teals, pinks, and a peach color, and I want to create a sunset scene with beautiful pink skies and a little bit of pink reflected in the sand. We're going to start by doing ink blending first, then we will do some stamping, and then we will put our cards together. Here I'm showing you the stencils that I will be using. These stencils, so in this Coastal Paradise suite of products, there are 3 products. There is a stamp set, there is a coordinating dies, and of course there is a set of stencils. By the way, all of these products are part of a new release, Whispering Views, that just went live on July 15th. So be sure to check out that release in the store if you haven't yet checked it out. So in the stencil set, there are stencils to ink blend different sections. There are 3 stencils to ink blend a background, and you can use those stencils with many other products that you might already have in your stash. These stencils create a beautiful a beautiful coastal scene. And then you also have additional stencils to add color to the stamped images. And I'll go over that in just a minute once we're done ink blending our background. So I'm going to start with stencil layer number 1. Here I have a grip mat. I have a sheet of hammermill cardstock. This is cut to 4¼ by 5½ inches. I have placed my stencil layer number 1 over my cardstock, and I have used tape to tape the top part of the sky off. I don't want to ink blend the sky just yet, and I also do not want to ink blend the sky using blue colors or teal colors. I want to have a different colored sky, so you'll see me work on that sky a little later. For the water, for the sea or for the ocean, so I'm starting with the Waterfall ink, and I'm ink blending the entire sea or water area using Waterfall ink and a large blending brush. I'm trying to apply a heavy amount of ink onto my paper. And then with that done, I'm coming in with turquoise just at the bottom of my panel and adding a little bit of that darker teal toward the bottom. I'm using the same blending brush here. I did not switch to a different color blending brush. I'm simply using one blending brush for both colors, and I find it works for me. Whenever I need to switch to a lighter color, I just clean my blending brush on a piece of scrap paper, and then I can easily go to a lighter shade of the same color. With the water ink blended, I'm going to remove that tape that is masking the sky, and I'm going to work on the sky. If you want, you can also ink blend the sky blue, and I did try that, although I didn't exactly like it. I wanted my sky to be completely different color, but if you want to, you can have a blue sky, and then you can have beautiful rays of sun. You can do them in yellow in your sky. So that's a nice option for you as well. I'm ink blending a sunset, and I wanted the sunset to be pink. Here I'm starting with a Ballet slipper, and again I'm using a large blending brush and applying a ton of color onto my background. And then I am going to use Sparkling Rose, which is a little bit darker pink, and I'm adding that at the top of my sky because I want to have a little bit of that darker pink at the top. With that done, we can remove the tape and remove our stencil and reveal our first layer. Looks beautiful. I love the result. Next, I'm going to work with stencil layer number 3. So this layer will allow me to finish the sky, and this layer also lets me add waves onto the background. Now here I have a card where I actually forgot to ink blend the waves, and As you can see, it looks just as nice. So if you want, you can skip the waves and have, a peaceful sea with no waves at all. But if you want to have a stormy, well, not stormy, a sea with some waves, with some foam, you can use this layer to add that detail. And you can ink blend this particular detail, this particular layer, with either darker blue to add, deeper shadows, or you can ink blend that with white to create foam on your background. So again, you have options. I'm first going to work on the sky because I want to finish that section, and I'm using the same colors of ink. So Ballet Slipper to ink blend the entire sky, and then I will come in with the sparkling rose and add that at the top to intensify it. Using that same blending brush, and I'm using a heavy hand to apply quite a lot of ink there. The actual sun is masked, and there is another layer that you can use to ink blend the round sun, and we will do that a little bit later. I want to add foam to my sea, so I'm using the Calico White pigment ink, and I'm using the smallest blending brush from Pinkfresh Studio to apply the white pigment ink onto my sea. You can apply several layers, do several coats if you want the white to be more opaque. Otherwise, if you apply just one coat and if you go with a light hand, you will have slightly not true white. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you want whiter detail, whiter foam details on your water, you can come back and reapply the white later. Next, I'm going to work on the sun and the beach. And for this, I'm using stencil layer number 2. I'm going to line it up and let's do the ink blending. I need to ink blend the sun using the same colors of ink that I used for the sky. So again, the Ballet Slipper. I'm also using that same Ballet Slipper ink to ink blend the top portion of my beach. I want the beach to have a little bit of that pink reflect in the sand. So I'm using that pink to do that. I'm also coming in with a peach fuzz. It's a beautiful color to create the sand on a tropical vacation. And I'm ink blending that using the peach fuzz ink. I'm bringing that a little bit toward the top. And I have the pink and the peach meet. And this gives me a beautiful peach pink sand for my card. The ink is going to dry and look a little bit better. It looks a little bit splotchy at the moment, but once it dries, it will look better. Now, with the background done, we're going to go ahead and do some stamping. So I'm using the stamps from the Coastal Paradise stamp set, and I'm going to stamp the beautiful beach houses. I'm using my Mini Misty stamping tool. Again, I have the Hammermill cardstock. This panel is cut to 4¼ by 5½ inches, and I'm inking up my images using the Detail Black ink from Pinkfresh Studio. Making sure to get a nice crisp black impression. And I also want to stamp additional palm trees because I want to have more than one palm tree on my card. With that done, we can start our ink blending. I once again have my grip mat. I have placed the panel on the grip mat, and I'm now working with the stencils to add color to the houses. This is stencil layer number 1. And I'm ink blending this using the sparkling rose ink. You can have your houses ink blended in whichever colors of ink you want. And by the way, be sure to check out the Pinkfresh Studio website for additional examples and inspiration. And also join the blog hop that took place just yesterday. You can see a ton of ideas on the blog hop and also the Instagram hop. There's lots of projects with a new release, goodies, and there's also a giveaway. So make sure you check that out for additional examples. That being said, I wanted my houses to be pink because, well, I have the pink sunset and I kind of wanted to have that pink cast a little bit of a pink shadow on the houses. So maybe the houses aren't really pink, maybe they are white, but because we have that sun setting, it's creating the pink, the pink shadow on the houses. Next, I have stencil layer number 2, and this will allow me to ink blend the palm trees and the roofs of my houses. For the palm trees, I'm using 2 colors of green, the grassy knoll and the key lime. I've switched to a much smaller blending brush to be able to ink blend these images without having to mask the house details on this panel. You can still ink blend this using a large blending brush, but if you do use a large blending brush, you run the risk of accidentally getting the ink onto the areas that need not be blended with the green color. So with the palm trees ink blended, I next start to ink blend the house details. And for that, I'm using the peach Fuzz ink. So the same ink I was using for the beach. I am going to mask the areas that I don't need, just so that I don't get the ink where I don't need it. And I'm using the peach ink to ink blend the roofs of the houses, as well as the house deck. You can use a brown ink, a true brown color if you want. I wanted to have a softer color combination, so this is why I'm using the colors that I'm using. But again, there are many different color combinations that you can play with. I simply wanted to use these colors. Now I'm ink blending the next layer, and this is stencil layer number 3. And I'm once again using that peach Fuzz ink to add the light peach or the light brown detail onto this image. And looks like this background is almost done. We just have one last layer to do. And this is stencil layer number 4. And with this layer, I just have some additional details left to ink blend on the houses, as well as the little tree detail at the bottom there. I'm using, once again, that same peach Fuzz ink. You can see that my color combination is quite limited. So the colors that I showed you at the beginning of this video are the colors that I'm using, plus the 2 green colors to do the ink blending for the palm trees. Next, I use the coordinating dies and I cut all of these images out. I love that we have the dies, and the dies allow us to cut the beautiful pieces out, and this allows us to pop them up on our cards. And also, when things are cut out, you really don't need to do any masking. I like to double up my images, so I will cut the main image out and then I will cut a blank from scrap piece of cardstock. And I adhere the 2 pieces together so that I have a sturdier die cut in the end. Once that is done, I'm going to foam mount the backgrounds onto my card bases. So I'm creating A2 cards. They measure 4¼ by 5½ inches. I have trimmed my backgrounds down slightly, so the backgrounds now measure 4 by 5¼ inches. And I used foam adhesive tape to foam mount the backgrounds onto the card. On the background on the right, I used the exact same colors, but I used yellow marigold to ink blend the sun. I wanted to see how that would look, and you can see the difference. So, you can try just the pink sky and the pink sun, or you can try to add gold if you want. I just wanted to, change things up and see how the different backgrounds would look. I have already pre-planned the placement of elements for these cards, and I took a photo with my phone. So I'm now using that photo as a guide to help me position the pieces exactly where I want them. Like I said, I am foam mounting all of the elements on my card. I love to add dimension to my cards. My projects are never flat. I love 1-layer cards. I adore 1-layer cards from other people, but I could never make a 1-layer card because I always want to add some sort of dimension to my projects. And you can see that I have a little bit of dimension here. First, I have the background popped up using foam adhesive, and now I have the die cut elements foam mounted here as well. Now the background on the card on the left says warmest birthday wishes, and this one is also a double layer. So I have 1 layer that was stamped on white cardstock and cut out, and then I had another blank layer. Those were adhered together, and then I used Barely Art glue to adhere that onto my card. Here is a look at the finished cards I have for you today. I actually have 3 cards. I didn't show you how I made all 3 because they all feature the same background. They all feature the same elements. The elements were ink blended pretty much using the same colors of ink. I just had slight variations on some of them. The card on the left, the one that says Sending You Sunshine, also used a darker brown ink, almost like black. I went with the Gather Twigs brown ink to add detail to the windows and to the roof. So that's a look at the cards I have for you today, created with a fabulous Coastal Paradise products. I hope you feel inspired to create, and I hope you will give this idea a try. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and remember to hit the like button and comment below. Let me know if you enjoyed these projects. Thanks so much for joining us today. Love you guys, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.